Scheduling YouTube content is a really fun task, just thought I'd let you know. Anyway, for my regular viewers, don't fret, I got late reviews and reviews coming out, and as of next week, it's just been kind of hectic the last 2 weeks, and the person that I was going to do a review with this week, I'm actually going to be doing a S7 late review in light of the Unpacked event. They're out of town, and I didn't have time to create another one. I didn't want to rush it, so I thought I'd settle on a comparison video, which you guys seem to enjoy. And for everybody here today, we're going to be doing an iPhone 6 versus iPhone 6s comparison. I'm going to be helping you decide which phone is the better buy as of 2019. So without wasting any more time, let's get into this video. So I'm going to speed through a few of these categories because let's just face it, the iteration here, the 6 to the 6S, wasn't really a huge jump in a lot of ways. So firstly with the design, I mean, they're pretty much identical except for the emblem on the back that lets you know that you have an S device. There's another color, you got the rose gold, and other than that, besides the lack of FCC marking, the designs are exactly the same. If you know a little bit more about iPhone, you would know that the 6S features 6000 series grade aluminum, which counteracted the bendability of the iPhone 6. As you can see here, this phone in particular kind of was failing at this weak point in the design, but here with the 6S, you have the stronger aluminum, which makes this phone less easy to bend. Also, before I forget to mention, they both feature down-firing speakers, so no stereo setups. Both speakers on these phones are adequate, kind of good enough, nothing that great in 2019, so keep that in mind. Same story with the displays, both feature the same resolution, the same panels, the same colors, nothing different between the two. This one doesn't even feature True Tone, which came later with the iPhone 7. Really, once again, the same displays in both of these devices. In regard to battery, this is where things get interesting. I would say if you have both new batteries in the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6S, the 6S is going to win because the A9 is more power efficient. Apparently you can get about 6 hours of screen on time on this device, which is impressive. Although I will say my friend does have to charge frequently during the day because his battery kind of drops on and off. Know when you buy a used device, the battery is going to be degraded. But once again, I would say generally, if you're buying used devices, from the 6S is going to fare better because A, it's newer, and B, once again, the A9 is a more power efficient chip. I don't have any information to provide you here because I really don't use this phone, but my general estimation is if you charge both of these up, to 100%, degraded, you might get maybe 2 to 3 hours of screen on time with the 6 and maybe a half an hour-ish longer with the 6S. That's my estimation. Go ahead and fact check me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but that seems about right for the iPhones of this time. I will say though, both of these devices charge pretty quickly, so if you are having battery problems, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Moving on to the cameras, big differences here. You have a higher resolution front camera on the iPhone 6S and a lower one on the iPhone 6. This is like VGA, this is like a 1 point something megapixel sensor. This is a 5 megapixel sensor. You also get front facing flash with this, so much better overall in terms of detail sharpness. And you are able to illuminate a selfie shot in a darker environment, unlike with the 6. In terms of the back-facing cameras, I would say there also is a huge difference. You have an 8 megapixel shooter on here, capable of 1080p 60 video. Here you have a 12 megapixel shooter, capable of up to 4K 30 video. Let's do a quick photo test here. So comparing the photos that I took here, I mean, the sharpness in both these images are great. That's, I think, because of the lighting conditions, but there is a little more bokeh you're getting here, less noise in the image on the 6S as well, so there is some marginal changes with the camera quality. I wouldn't say like very drastic, but it's definitely there. It's just going to be more of a refined image, but the sharpness in both images are great, and I would say maybe in terms of image capture, there isn't too much of a difference, but keep in mind, you are going to be getting more resolution with the 12 megapixel sensor on the 6S, and I believe there also is improved low light performance. Let's take a quick video here. Let's watch both these videos back here. Keep in mind, both of these phones do lack OIS, but from the looks of things, this is 1080p video. You really can't notice too much of a difference, I would say. Both are pretty sharp, so actually, I kind of take that back. I guess you will see some marginal improvements with the camera on the 6S if you really look hard, but for the most part, the camera quality has been maintained between both of them from what I can see here. Both are sharp, colorful, especially in well-lit conditions, and both take exceptional photos and videos for their age. So I would say, once again, you are going to notice some differences, especially in like lower lit conditions, and if you take 4K with the 6S, which is going to give you, higher resolution video. But for most everyday tasks, you know, if you are in good conditions, I wouldn't say you're going to notice too much of a difference in terms of your image quality. So that is something to keep in mind when purchasing these devices. With slow motion, you get up to 1080p at 120 FPS. On here, you get up to 720p at 120 FPS. So if slow motion video is important to you and you want the best resolution, you're going to want to go with the 6S, even if it costs a little more. So again, something to think about. And last, but certainly not least, let's talk about the most important aspect of these phones, and that is performance. Once again, the design, the displays, the battery life, even the cameras are pretty similar despite the difference in resolution and video recording capabilities. But with performance, this is where you're going to notice some differences. So this phone packs an A8 processor with a single gigabyte of RAM. This phone packs an A9 with 2 gigabytes of RAM, so already a big jump in performance. I would say overall iOS 12 runs really, really well on the iPhone 6s. It runs okay on the iPhone 6. Let's just compare some animations real quick. So as you can see, just a little more responsive here with the 6s, just very subtly, I would say, just a little bit faster. Let's try the notification panels. Similar, I would say, in some ways, but from what I've experienced, the 6S is a little more snappy and the animations are a little bit more consistent. There's some stutter here. Let's just go home. Let's actually quit all the apps here and open some. Let's open up Safari here. Very similar performance with the loading times, so that is interesting. Let's pull down the notification bar. Obviously he has more notifications than on this phone, but the animations actually are pretty smooth. So again, a little edge here with the iPhone 6s. Let's open up YouTube. And obviously this one loads a little bit quicker, although he is on LTE, so keep that in mind. Let's go to the trending page, click on a video. So a little faster once again with the 6s. So as you can notice, the trend here is that the 6s does have a little bit less of a delay than the iPhone 6 due to its faster, more recent processor. Let's open up Instagram. As you can see, the 6s does open things a little bit more quickly. Let's do some multitasking real quick here. Let's go back to YouTube. Seems good. Let's go back to weather. See a little bit of stutter there in the animations. Let's go back to Safari. I haven't noticed any reloads, but I'm guessing that the more apps you have open on the 6, the slower the phone is going to get. It's going to have to reload more because, once again, this phone packs 2 gigabytes of RAM, which is a very nice feature. Beyond the everyday tasks, though, beyond the animations, which tend to be a little smoother here, the app openings, which tend to be a little bit quicker on here. In terms of gaming, I don't have any intensive apps installed on either of these phones. I don't have my phone, and my friend doesn't have any on his phone. What I can tell you is the processor benchmarks do not lie. If you look here, and I'll zoom up, I'll actually provide a graphic on screen. The A8 to the A9 jump in terms of multi-core performance is pretty significant. So when you're doing more intensive things like editing some video on the go, or gaming, playing, like, I don't know, games like Infinity Blade or something with really decent graphics, you are going to have an edge with the 6S, once again with its increased RAM and its better processor. So in terms of both of these phones, let me just reiterate, pretty much the same design, pretty much the same display, a little bit better battery life here, but still it's going to be kind of spotty because if you're buying these used, the batteries are going to be degraded. But if you buy either of these phones new or replace the battery, you're going to get a little better on here because the A9 is more power efficient. In terms of camera, there's a little bit of an edge here. You get 4K video, a little bit of a higher resolution, but for the most part, the images and videos they're going to take, especially in decent lighting conditions, are going to be pretty dang similar. And lastly, in terms of performance, single core tasks, you know, like everyday menial things, you're going to notice a little bit of an edge here. Some of the animations are a little less choppy. Apps open a little bit more quickly. I would assume that some of the web pages load a little bit more quickly, especially if you have a consistent connection, unlike in my basement here. And again, remember that the A9 has a significantly higher multi-core score. So if you're going to do any heavier tasks, then get this phone. But if you're going to choose one of these phones, this goes for around 100, 120-ish used. This one goes around, 140, 160 used on eBay or some site like that. I would say spend the extra cash. You get the 6S, you get the edge in camera, the edge in performance, you get 3D touch and 4K video, a better front-facing camera, probably better battery life because the phone is going to be newer than this. But if you're lacking the cash, you need just like a second phone or a backup phone, I wouldn't say you need to buy the 6S. And the 6, I would say, is still a decent device to buy. So yeah, my final verdict once again, go iPhone 6S if you have the extra cash to spend. If you're really, really pressed to buy something cheap, then get the 6. It's not going to be the end of the world. But once again, go 6S. It's worth the extra $20 to $30 for the extra features that you're getting here. But at the end of the day, both of these phones still are great as of this year and will give you a pretty decent user experience, especially with iOS 12. It has accelerated and kind of given these phones new life, especially the 6S. I'm very, very impressed with the performance here. Also with this, I'm surprised. I thought it would have been a lot slower than the 6S. I just updated this to iOS 12 recently, so if you still have both of these phones, I still would wait if you don't have the money to upgrade. I wouldn't say it's worth it to go jump from here to here, maybe from here to a 7. But yeah, again, great phones. If you have the extra money, go 6S. If you can't, 6 will be a decent alternative. And yeah, that about wraps things up. I hope this video helped you out if you're kind of deciding which one of these phones to buy. And also, if you found any inaccuracies in this video, I was kind of on a time crunch. Please let me know if you have any of these phones that I talked about and you have a differing opinion or perspective. Leave me a comment. I love to hear them. My goal is to very accurately inform the consumer. So once again, if I said anything that was not quite right, please let me know. I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like in this video, comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.